your observation and your transfer to action could be just as simple as going up to that person and saying hello. In the police is the big thing at the minute, saying the power of hello.
Welcome to the Circuit Magazine, the #1 source of information on protection matters, the industry-leading magazine for all security professionals who want to stay ahead of the game.
Non-verbal behavioral analysis. Today, Sean West and myself are delighted to be speaking with Gary Simpson, who specializes in bringing this crucial skill set to the protector. How are you doing, Sean?
I'm good, Pelham. Great to be here. Great to get another podcast out the door.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I feel that this is a topic with real value for the listener, because quite often we talk about not getting yourself into a situation. But that's quite a broad topic, isn't it? De-escalation sounds good, but in practice, what does it really mean? And perhaps non-verbal communication is where we can find some of the answers.
I think non-verbal communication skills is one of the most undervalued skills out there, especially in the security space. I think it's our first layer of threat detection, right? Long before any weapon or anything like that comes, it's them little nuances you pick up, that situational awareness that you hold, when things may be right, things may be wrong. It's that thing that's just out of the ordinary that sticks out, and being able to notice that is an incredible skill. And the more we work on that and becoming more in tune with our environment and improving that situational awareness, the more adept we are as protectors.
And I feel that has real applicability to the protector, because there's very few circumstances, at least in the UK and in Europe, where they might be able to use force or should be using force, because that would mean that things have gone wrong. However, this can help them act like a better concierge. It can help them find the decision maker. It can help them truly understand where people are coming from. I don't know if you've had to implement anything like this, but I feel that this is a skill set that the protector would benefit from.
Yeah, I mean, it can be used in so many contexts. I mean, even at just events, having that arm's distance from people and be able to see visually what that person's doing, thinking, potentially what, things they're thinking about doing, but also the massive implications in different cultures, something that might be valued over here, maybe frowned upon somewhere else, and I was in actually a really interesting call the other day with, he was a negotiator, and he was a case that was going on between two lawyers, and he'd been employed to come and sit and watch the cues between the two teams that were almost trying to take the case and not getting straight to the root, the core of the problem, because the longer they worked, the more they got paid. They were getting an hourly rate. But when there was someone there, the external person sitting on the outside, looking in and getting all of that feedback, that the verbal cues, things that cutting through the noise and saying, listen, you just need to do this. Have you noticed that? And bringing everything together. It was a huge, force multiplier in speeding that up, getting the decision-making process quicker, saving, tens of thousands of pounds in legal fees, just because there was someone there, sat there, that didn't have the posturing, of this team against that team. They sat there taking the cues and then working in the middle to kind of de-escalate based on the personalities of the individuals of each side. But yeah, no, real interesting space.
I like that. Yeah, so many applications. Well, really fascinated to get into it. I know Gary has a wealth of experience, so let's look at non-verbal communication for the protector.
And now, let's meet one of the contributors to the Circuit Magazine.
Non-verbal communication for today's protector. I'm really pleased to welcome Gary Simpson, co-founder of the Special Projects Group, to the Circuit Magazine podcast. How are you doing, Gary?
Very, very good. Thanks, Phelim. Thank you for your nice introduction as well. Yeah, really happy to be here.
Well, great to have you on, and a great topic because I think it's one where a lot of people will say, "Oh, I know all about that, non-verbal communication." But let's get down to the fundamentals. What's the problem we're trying to solve by discussing this topic in relation to EP?
Yeah, do you know what, Phelim? This is a question that I get quite a lot, and I seem to give a different answer every time. But it all stems from the same place. So it's twofold, really. I think from a commercial perspective, we're wanting to help security teams and security companies fast track the gap between a fresh-faced sprog or new recruit joining their team who's been trained in everything under the sun, but just hasn't had that experience of walking the walk, versus the veteran who's been on the ground loads of times and has been able to build up that capacity to recognize patterns and behavior and increase the situational awareness. But I suppose the main problem that we're trying to solve here is there's been a huge increase in the rise of antisocial behavior, people carrying weapons, people doing sporadic attacks, lone wolf attacks. And unfortunately, we're in this climate now, economically, culturally, where it will give rise to that type of behavior. Um, Now, people have got wise to the fact that you don't need semi-automatic assault rifles or huge organized infrastructures behind you to commit atrocities, or to raise fear, or to put your message across. Like anyone can do that now with a baseball bat, and a kitchen knife and a busy shopping center. So what we're trying to do here is teach people how to read that human landscape and recognize the patterns of behavior that attacks like this leak out. So we want to mitigate the risk of this attack or these attacks fully manifesting. And ultimately, it sounds very cheesy, but save people's lives, like help them. And we're not just talking about EPs, we're not just talking about private security details, armed forces, law enforcement, all the people who we train. We're talking about frontline people, talking about people who are likely to come into contact with the public with difficult situations, helping them to understand, raise their situational awareness, spot these threats before they fully manifest, and keep themselves safe.
And I can see why that's really, really key for not just protectors, but the wider corporate security community as well. And we'll get into that. We'll get into things they can learn and things they might already know. But what about
Mhm.
you? Obviously, I'm very pleased to have you on, but where does your passion for this come from?
I suppose my passion, it comes from many things. Number one, it's a very interesting topic. Like I love like behavior, everything about it. I love being able to see how people interact and move in relation to their environment and their tasks. But my real passion stems from seeing it work in the field. So my background is the forces. So I was Royal Marines Commando, worked with conventional forces, supported special forces, then went into maritime security, anti-piracy, security consulting a lot. Now, I, like many others, when I first joined, I was a very young person, you know, and I thought I knew everything. And as highly trained as you are, coming from backgrounds like the Marines, nothing really prepares you for taking that first step on the ground whenever you're going out into Afghanistan, or Iraq or places like that. Now, I never did Iraq, but I did Afghanistan a few times. And the first time that I went out there, I was in my very early 20s. And yeah, it was a bit of an eye opener to say the least. All of a sudden, I was in a place where I looked completely out of place. I didn't speak the language, and quite a lot of people saw me as a hostile person. But luckily, during my first tour, we were deemed to be more likely to encounter potential human intelligence assets. So a section of us got squirreled away to do some basic human training. Now, it really was basic. It was looking at question techniques, bits of behavior, and then it kind of finished off with body language. And the first time that I started to apply it on the ground, all of a sudden I no longer felt like I was the young whippersnapper who was inexperienced because I had this ability to read like patterns of behavior, to build rapport with the people around me just based on how I spoke, how I presented myself. And that really helped me. And now that's what we do, like with the people who we teach. It's almost, again, it sounds cheesy, but we're empowering them to enhance their intuition. This thing that's been keeping us alive for so long. We put them back in touch with that sixth sense, and with that, they're able to operate far more effectively. Oh, you're on mute, unfortunately.
So there won't be a completely uninitiated operator out there. But for those that I suppose think they know about non-verbal behavioral analytics, but really don't know as much as they should, where should they start? What should they better understand?
With NVC and in particular body language aspect of it, it's the allure of being able to, read what people are thinking and find the hidden messages and everything. It's very attractive, but I suppose one of the biggest mistakes that people do is they'll isolate certain gestures, they'll isolate certain cues, and they'll introduce a lot of confirmation bias into that, and it everybody falls foul of it. But when I first started doing body language and NVC, I would often go down that rabbit hole. So what I recommend is everything needs to be read in context, you know? So you can't just look at a person and I don't know they're avoiding eye contact or they're looking around shiftily, you know. Whereas that can be one of the indicators, or in context, it can be a pre-incident indicator. Now, at 10 times, it's not. That person could have ASD. That person could just be very stressed. They could be in a brand new place. Like NVC is all about, I suppose, it's not certainty, it's probability with purpose, if that makes sense. It should be used as a tool rather than a checklist. And what you'll see out there is a lot of people trying to sell out that we do certain checklists and you have to tick this box and tick this box and tick this box before you can make and then you make a sound judgment. So I did a post recently on LinkedIn that focused around a question that I get asked a lot, which is what are the most consistent indicators to hostile intent, say? And we looked at sporadic directions of travel, we looked at rehearsal-like behavior, and we looked at target and witness scanning. But that is only one area of what we teach in terms of threat detection. So we've got that's only like kinesics, which is body language. There are 7 different areas of threat detection which we look at. And while it's tempting for people to see NVC as the one-stop shop or as a certainty for detecting threat, it isn't. It is there designed as a tool to help you to understand security matters a lot more. It's designed to raise situational awareness and spot those patterns of behavior, but it's all probability.
And so I guess, we can get on to the specific techniques that people might want to learn or pick up on. But you mentioned you were first initiated into this during Herrick, Afghanistan, things like that. Now, I guess maybe one important question is, how does this work across cultures?
Yeah. It's a good question. You need to take into account, obviously, cultural deviations or cultural idiosyncrasies, and that all gets wrapped up in context. But if you split it down to like fundamentals, we as human beings are almost hardwired to use the non-verbal channel. You know, if you were to look at, we've been evolving for millions of years. Say, and I'm paraphrasing here, Anna. But our grasp of the verbal channel of communication has really mainly been developed in the past 50 to 100,000 years, right? So before that, everything was through our like vocalics, our paralanguage, movements, and things like that. So we're constantly hardwired to send and receive these signals. It's why you get a funny feeling when somebody walks into a bar, and you think, "Oh, I think it's going to kick off here." You're not psychic, you know. I don't recommend that you go out and put on a lottery ticket. You're just recognizing or you're picking up on their subtle non-verbal cues that they're putting out there. That's where it comes from. But yeah, there are certain cultural differences, of course. But if you remember that we're all people at the end of the day, you'll be able to pick up on those things.
So let's think practically. You know, of course, I'm not an expert in this, as you are, but if I am thinking about developing my skills, should I think in terms of areas of the body to observe non-verbal communication? Should I go on a course about eyes? You hear in those YouTube videos about people who are feeling, looking down, and
Yeah.
thinking, looking up and left and right, and so on. Is that a good strategy to sort of go right body parts? Could that be a method?
Do you know, like that's oculesics, what you're talking about there, where your eye direction essentially dictates what you're thinking. And you know, practically, it doesn't really work as well as you'd want it to work. It all depends on, you know, are they left or right-handed? Again, taking into account of context as well. There's lots of people who say focus on facial expressions, for example. Like Paul Ekman has done a lot of work in facial expressions, micro expressions, things like that, which are great. And we teach elements of that, particularly around hostile intent. I would say the person, it depends on context. Where I would always start is your ability to read atmospherics. You know, we have something called ANPA, which is absence of the normal and presence of the abnormal. We always start there whenever we're doing our reading. Like, what is off? What is not off? What's happening, which isn't usually happening, and then vice versa. And then from there, we start our assessment when it comes on to things like that. But yeah, I would never read in isolation. I'd never focus on one particular aspect. I'd always read in clusters more than anything like that. But equally, if you want to do fast, if you're wanting to, I suppose, like enhance your ability to spot body language, I would always look at baselines. You know, what's the baseline of a person? Like, we've all got our certain gestures that we'll always be looking at. So we always look at spotting a deviation from that baseline and then moving on from there.
Yeah, I guess we do. I don't often think about my own, but you know, on a lot of Zoom calls, for some reason, I get an itchy nose. I don't know why, but like you will often
Yeah.
see me scratching my nose. Um, I guess we've had other guests on the Second Magazine podcast that, you know, like super recognizers who
Mm.
are naturally gifted. By the way, I did take that test, and I am not a super recognizer, it turns out. Um, but I
Scratching his
guess
nose.
I know I'm doing it again. These are little subtle cues, I think. But is there a point at which a protector says, "I'm not good at this," or is there scope for all of the protection community to at least get some non-verbal behavioral analysis down in their skill set?
Yeah, absolutely. I've come across that a few times where people say, I'm just not really good at reading behavior. Well, we can all read behavior. You know, whenever you get in a car and drive along the motorway, you are reading behavior very subtly. And you're all hardwired to kind of like, it's our original method of communicating with one another is through the non-verbal channel. Right? What you tend to find is people, particularly in the modern security era now, where it's all about shiny new solutions and it's the latest gadgets and everything like that. People will tend to lose faith in their ability to spot these patterns and read this types of behavior in favor of the quick wins that that AI is promising them, or the latest security gadget, or things like that. So yeah, I'd definitely say that there's a lot of scope for anybody to get better at it. Like I'm still getting better at it. Me 3 years ago is completely different to what I am now, and that comes from everything. That's the biggest benefit that you'll tend to get when you first start this journey. Ultimately, is becoming more self-aware. Self-aware of how you interact with people, of how your body language changes. Oftentimes, I catch myself like displaying the gesture of discomfort, and I try and link that then to what I'm doing, like almost forcing myself to go, right, okay, so this is why am I feeling like this, or why am I displaying this, and then you kind of analyze it there. But yeah, anyone can do it. Yeah, completely.
And actually, that's an interesting angle because up until this point, I'd always thought, well, it's useful to see a potential attack on your principal. Someone in the crowd is just giving you that vibe that they're going to do that.
Mm.
But of course, what you just said, conversely, you could control your own mannerisms and behavior. Is that something that you teach about maybe not giving too much away? Like, I don't know, a facial expression that says, we're going to take the principal indoors.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that an angle?
Yeah, it is definitely. So some of the work and some of the projects that we've run in the past have been with specialist military units, for example, who deploy ahead of disaster relief. And one of the things that they were coming across with is they were getting made out in the public, essentially. They were getting picked out and spotted from miles away just by how they moved, how they interacted. So we teach a lot of that as well. Plus, like anything from increasing your security posture as well, like looking the part, particularly around door supervisors, retail security, things like that. One of the first or the most useful things that I put into practice during like my time in Afghanistan was the ability to build rapport with the people around me, get them engaging. I remember specifically, we were doing a snap vehicle checkpoint or a VCP. And I was naturally down as the chatter. And within the first like couple of cars that came by, we were just getting nowhere. Nothing was happening. We were getting met with hostility and everything. So I decided to put into practice exactly what we taught. Had a word with our interpreter, gave him new SOPs in terms of how I want him to act in relation to the people who we were chatting to. I completely changed my uniform, my stance, my security posture, and then opened up to them using empathy themes, reciprocal body language, all the stuff that Robin Dreeb talks about, for example, in building rapport and trust. And it was almost like somebody had flicked a switch, and all of a sudden we've gone from stone walls to people just hemorrhaging information to us because they felt like they could trust us. And that was just through altering my body language, altering my behavior. Like you see, with NVC, it's not just your body, it's not just body language. Like it stems from everything from your environment, from the clothing, from how you hold yourself, from the verbal language that you use, from the tics, applying history and context and everything like that. To be honest, that's one of the biggest wins that we typically get. People come away and they say, "Well, do you know what? I'm a far better communicator now." And I think we spoke last time about bridging that gap between EP and CP. You know, how people come in from hostile environments into, you know, like residential security teams, the struggle that these guys face. Well, with the training that we do, like becoming self-aware, increasing your ability to communicate, build rapport, build trust with your principals in particular, you know, it's a partnership. Like it's one of the most trusted places that you're going to be. You're protecting somebody. You need that somebody to be able to trust you. Like, and you can't, you know, it's not like you're in hostile environments where you can go in, you could order people, right? I need you to go here, 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 and here. That really won't work if if your principal is an 18-year-old who just wants to go out clubbing. You know, that just doesn't work. So with the training that we deliver, it's all about, there's a large aspect is building that